Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Sustainability Network. I am Shruti Harihara Subramanian, and I am the founder of Goli Soda. For many of you who know, Goli Soda is a sustainable brand, and we work with some amazing brands over the last few years that we've started. And today we'll be meeting one such brand that is making a big difference in the space of sustainable menstruation. Today we will be meeting the co-founder of Boondh, Bharti Kannan. And thanks to them, the menstrual cup has almost become a household name because of the efforts they've been taking. Personally, okay, here they are. They are here. Begin. Yeah.
Hi, Shruti.
Hi, Bharti. Look, we can't see you as yet, but we can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay. Can you see me now?
Not yet, but can hear you very clearly, actually.
Very.
You want to close it and try it? Try one more time? Yeah? Ah, yes, I can see you.
Oh, okay. Superb.
Lovely.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, so here we have Bharti, and she's the founder of Boondh. I just was explaining to our listeners about what work you do, but I'm sure we are all waiting to hear more from you. So, welcome to the Sustainability Network,
Thank you so much for having me.
and we finally meet virtually.
Yes. Yes.
Though you told me we've actually bumped into a wedding, and I had no memory of that, but nice to know that we have some common connection here in Chennai.
Yes. Very much. Very much. Very glad.
So let's come straight to the point. How did the journey of Boondh happen? How did Boondh happen?
So a lot of it is tied with my own personal story, but the motivation comes a lot from the fact that, I was an engineer who was a little lost doing engineering, didn't really want to pursue a career in doing a master's or a PhD that was like a mainstream idea that my friends were doing at that point in time. I took a break. I tried to study for the civil service exams, and it was by chance during that period that I ended up, applying to a few social science schools. And one of the schools I applied to was TISS in Bombay. And I think over there is where I found a little bit of my fundamentals in the way I want to live my life, the way I see my life, and so on and so forth. I studied and worked a little bit on gender, but predominantly on health, and that grew as a passion for me. And why Boondh particularly? Because sexual and reproductive health was something that I was very interested in working on, and I had some amount of experience working with different organizations, consultancies on the same. And somehow in that process, I realized that menstrual health was losing its focus completely. And in that time period, there was this huge sort of like conundrum: how do you work on menstrual health? How is it even possible to work in menstruation itself in India, where it's extremely stigmatized? It's very problematic to speak
Yes.
about it within our own homes as institutions, or whether it's a workplace or it's a school, so on and so forth. So I guess that's when I had already been a user of the menstrual cup. I had tried a few cloth pads, and I had seen a lot of resistance with my own friends and family members to try to use the cup. So at this point in time, what happened was, okay, let's just learn a little more about the cup. That's how it started, because we needed a revenue generating model also to keep the organization afloat, even if we wanted to work on various aspects of menstruation, whether it was policy, advocacy, literacy, and other aspects of menstruation. So it just became an entry point for us, the cup itself. And we didn't do anything great. We just looked at all the other cups that were there. We tried to learn from them, and because we were very clear that we don't want to reinvent a product itself. We wanted to learn from what everyone else has been doing, because the first cup, Shruti, has been around from 1937 or so.
Yes,
And
that was actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Like, if the cup was there for that long, why wasn't it that popular? Why is it that it's only probably in the last 5 years or so that we are all finding it very familiar, the whole concept? So where did we lose that idea in
Yeah,
between? And
yeah,
how did
yeah.
you
So
find it? How did you find it again? Yeah.
for me, the cup actually came into existence when I started researching my own problems with actually using a disposable pad. I was not comfortable with it. This was way back when I was studying in TIS, and I was looking at other options, just completely put off with the fact that that point in time it was just the waist angle that was bothering me. And as and when I learned about other aspects around it, the health aspects are getting bigger and bigger about using something that is disposable. And that's how the cup came into existence, and Boondh happened in some way.
Okay.
But to answer your question about why I think the cup hasn't still taken a mainstream, or the cloth pad hasn't taken a mainstream way at all, is because there are way too many problems. But the first way I look at it is that disposables have a huge profit margin when it comes to actually being sold, and it's a repetitive buy for a customer and a conglomerate to make. And a business that looks at producing something which wants to shove it down people's throats about how clean it is, how you have to how aspirational it is to use a particular product and thereby feel empowered, is stymied in the own biases with which menstruation is looked at in the country itself. So I mean, there are many ways to look at it. One of those things that I think is very relevant is how businesses work.
So I'm sure through your journey as a social entrepreneur, you would have bumped into many hurdles, and this is a question I'm probably asking probably all of us, all the people coming on this talk, because as entrepreneurs, and we are working in a space that is not the usual, it's new, and predominant part of our work involves in education. But even besides that, running a business, running an and especially for you, where the whole subject is kind of taboo in some place. In some places, people, girls feel shy to talk about it, or even go pick up a pad or a cup or any of those things. We still live in such a place. So, what were the kind of hurdles that you were facing and you've overcome, and what are the new kind of hurdles that you're facing now?
So the hurdles began very personally again. Like my idea of can I even set up a business? Is it even possible? I come from a family where there are serial entrepreneurs, and I never even thought I would end up doing business. But I was very clear I don't want to do the kind of businesses that they're doing. So I guess I had some answer for myself from there. And then when Boondh started happening, I think the struggle was in just getting opportunities. Like we had a product, yes. That's how we entered this space. But getting an opportunity to work with anything beyond the product, because the goal was to work beyond the product, whether it was menstrual health programming, whether it was working with a tiny school with 10 children, boys and girls mixed together, and like conceptualizing a menstrual health programming program for them. It was so hard in the initial phases. It was knocking on doors in so many places. But with time, what's happened is people have recognized some amount of value that we've brought to the institutions that we work with, and they're able to see that we create a safe space. We're able to encourage conversations that they've not been able to have within their peer groups or within their workspaces around menstruation. And by virtue of actually opening up a conversation on something so intimate like menstruation, what happens is that, especially when it's mostly menstruator groups or like women groups doing it or girls groups doing it, is that they feel bonded. They're able to talk about their experience of child sexual abuse. They're able to talk about any other sort of experience that talking about menstruation can have on sexual and reproductive health itself. So we're able, or early child marriage in some contexts that we've seen. So, but now the challenge is growing ever and ever. Now we're facing all of these new themes that are originating with the work that we're doing, and we're not equipped to respond and redress and address this in the communities that we work with. And do we want to get there is the first question. How do we get there? If we do get there, is another question. So I think the programming, as it's evolving, our challenges are changing and taking different shapes in the different contexts that we're working in.
That's good. So let me tell the viewers, like, if you have any questions to throw us, whether it's me or Bharti about sustainable menstruation or anything even beyond that, we'll be happy to answer. So coming back to our conversation, education, as you told, is your primary focus. How much of it does it involve the men? How much? How many? How much? I mean, how much of the boys or men do you involve in this whole concept of sustainable menstruation?
So it really depends on the stakeholder we're working with. Many times, like for example, if our client at this point in time is going to be a corporate client, we have a better negotiating power there to be able to involve the men in the same room and work with them. Or if you're working with a larger project, which is going to span over a year, with a school-based approach to programming itself, we're able to then, over time, talk to the stakeholders like the principal, talk to the parents, and or convince them to involve the men over time and see their responsibility also in menstruation. But it's a challenge. We try in every community we work with, but we also know that we have to respect that a lot of menstruators prefer not to be involved in the same room, in that particular space with men. They want to have the space to talk about their problems or their imaginations or the lived experience of menstruation alone with a woman, with a room that only has menstruating people. So we try to draw a balance, and it's hard, but we're trying to involve more and more men, especially who are decision makers, because today,
Yes.
Whether it's any sort of an institution, from a school to a corporate office, the decision makers predominantly are the men, and we're trying to help them see their responsibility, whether it's in the aspect of creating a more positive menstrual culture, to developing better waste management systems surrounding menstruation
Yes.
itself, and so the whole gambit, or with menstrual disorders itself, what needs to be done. How is labor perceived from with a menstrual, because it's been perceived for a male body. Labor laws exist predominantly around how male bodies work, and we're fighting for equality, but how do we, when bodies are different and the issues we face is so different, how do we address equality? Yeah.
That's interesting. So we had somebody called Meghna writing, who's asked us a question, not directly related to menstruation, I guess, but more as an entrepreneur. She wanted to know, he or she wanted to know, how did you get the kind of funding for the ideas that you have?
Okay, we actually secured a very small sort of a grant from an undisclosed person, a high net worth individual, and since then we've just sustained with that grant. But we've also worked, and we've tried to rotate money, and we work predominantly on cash flows. In fact, Goli Soda is one of our bigger resellers, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Happy to know that.
But
yeah.
Yes. Also, what we've done though is with the other aspects of the work, especially the literacy or the programming or the advocacy, we've realized we're not able to fund it ourselves. And we've tried in different pockets, and we've done a lot of pro bono work. We've won a recent grant from a UK-based organization that works particularly on sexual reproductive health. So we take some of our work in that particular, with that grant approach. We work with CSRs or well-wishers who can pay for the services for a particular community itself. So we have a diverse revenue model. Part of it is the products. Yeah.
So Meghna writing, I hope your question has been answered. Feel free to ask more questions if you wish. But I guess since both of us are running a sustainable business, the whole concept of calling it a sustainable business, we have to ensure that the business itself is sustainable itself in the economic side as well. So I think Goli Soda's answer is also pretty much the same. A lot of it is about how the business itself takes care of itself and sustains itself. And we too do a lot of workshops and events, and a lot of it has been done pro bono, because we've also realized that education is the key to creating the market. If you're going to plainly look at it in the business terms, there's no point selling a product if people don't know how to use it or why we are selling it. So education, you should probably, we treat it like our workshops and things like that, our seminars, even though it costs us a lot to do it for free. In fact, we had something like the organic terrace garden workshop running for almost 5 years continuously, every month for free. Though we don't sell directly any garden products, but just the fact to get the community involved and to think sustainably or think about being eco-friendly, that itself makes a difference to how they start thinking and buying other products. So yes, so let's continue with some of the other questions that I had. So as part of your educational program, of course, we all know that in India, especially, menstruation is seen like a taboo, and that's the other reason why it's important to involve the men in. But I'm sure with different communities or different societies that you visit, the way you approach it might be different, right? Or various cultural backgrounds might have different kinds of taboos or what do you say, customs or traditions. How do you tackle the differences within that? And how do you also ensure that their sentiments are not hurt? Maybe there would be a woman who would like to respect the tradition that has to be followed, but how do you also make sure that she's comfortable with her menstruation, but at the same time not hurting her sentiment?
Sure. It's such a valid question, Shruti. And particularly, I'd like to take the example of, like, for example, visiting temples or places of worship surrounding menstruation, and how that is addressed in our modules or workshops. So across various religions, it's tabooed to enter a religious place. In fact, India has, in its recent legal history, also contested it in the Supreme Court, and the verdict has been in favor of allowing menstruating women to enter the Sabrimala temple itself, which again is going to be revisited in another court judgment recently. But I think what's really important in the sessions that we also believe in, and a number of organizations like us also believe in when they're taking the modules, is that the tenet around which these modules are constructed, which is informed choice. So we're just there to help a menstruator who's not had access to knowledge and information surrounding menstruation at all. Now, by virtue of doing that, we empower them with these tools in different creative ways to be able to converse and ask some questions scientifically, by and large, and help them address their own issues. Like, if for example, many times we see a girl be like, oh, but I was told not to go to a temple. So the girl will question herself that why have I been asked? And it's not like the girl hasn't questioned that before at all. But by virtue of coming to the session, they're able to ask it with a little more like sanction to themselves, firstly, and then maybe, if possible, allow themselves to ask that with their family at all in some places. And I recognize when I'm saying this, there's going to be a lot of friction, there's a lot of difficulty negotiating that. But the idea is, even in those places, we don't encourage, like, if they want to fight about it, yes, it's really up to them and it's their prerogative, but it's really about engaging in conversations with their parents. So many times our programs are not just tailored with the girls, it's also with the girl in the center of the ecosystem. Can we also try talking to the boys? Can we also try talking to the parents? Because unless they also try to evolve, then there is really going to be difficulty addressing very systemic structural issues surrounding menstruation itself. So we're very mindful, but the tenet is around informed choice, whether it's with a product and whether it's with the choice of how they want to engage with their body and anything around when they menstruate or they don't menstruate at all.
That's a very valid way of looking at it. So there's this other typical mind block that comes when it comes to cups. Young girls can't use it. I'm sure you face this question a lot, and I'm sure many of our viewers also are probably in that dilemma of can I use it, or can I suggest this to my daughter? So what is the answer that you usually give for this?
The direct answer is yes. Young girls, we've known girls who are as young as 13-year-olds use it right when they start menstruating. But of course, I'd like to make a few disclaimers here. One is, it's the girl, the menstruator, who has to make the choice to want to use it, and that doesn't come easy. it's very low hanging fruits. Like a girl is an eco warrior or a sustainability champion from the very beginning, and that girl is normally the one who wants to use the cup. She will bring her mother on and she'll say, hey, I want to use the cup. Mother will be very apprehensive about it. There's the other aspect where the mother is forcing the girl to use the cup and the girl doesn't want to use the cup. So both those things happen. But the important thing to address is that a lot of the notion is surrounding virginity itself. And the virginity is connected with sex and a tissue that is called hymen in our bodies, and that it has no correlation whatsoever. The hymen has no correlation with intercourse. Some people are born with a hymen, some people have varied shapes of the hymen. For some people, the hymen kind of like stretches because of physical activities, and some people also it happens during sex. Now it's a choice whether we want to add value to a particular tissue in our body that has no known purpose of existence or functionality, and then choose to use the cup or not.
All this confusion.
Yeah, and choose to, whether you want to masturbate, whether you want to have sex, whether you want to use the cup. All of those are choices that a particular menstruator has to be able to decide for themselves. And that's what we try to do even in these conversations, the education programs, that it is absolutely okay to use such a product, but it takes a learning curve for anybody, whether you're a young person or an older person. We're not intimate with our bodies. We don't understand a lot of things. I didn't understand how to take out the cup the first time I wore it, and I was so stressed and I was fretting and fuming about it. And this can happen to anybody because we don't understand our bodies and we're not in sync with how we feel and how our genitalia feels at all.
No, that's true, because I am one of them. To be honest, I've still not made the shift to the cup. I've been using the cloth pads for several years, almost 10 years now. And just when I decided, okay, it's the time for me to, I think I need to shift to the cup because I travel a lot and sometimes the cloth pads are not convenient for that, I got pregnant. So now I have to go back to now it's a good time for me to go back to learn the cup. So I have my cup with me. So just for you to, this is the proof that I had bought it, and then just when I was ready to try it on, I got pregnant. So why don't you teach people how to fold the cup and insert? I'm sure I've heard that there are many folds. Can you suggest a few, and maybe I could also see if I'm getting it right? Sure.
So just before I start trying to explain, I just have a couple of things to say. One is, it is not absolutely necessary for everyone to try the cup or the cloth pad. I mean, these two are the options I normally would urge people to give a shot to, but because they're much more sustainable and in terms of its life cycle, it's far more better and healthier for our bodies because we control the sterility of the product. Nobody's telling us it's clean and white and sterile. One is that. Two is, especially with using the cup, the key thing to note is that because it's so alien to us, being very stress-free helps, because if we're stressed, our vagina is going to clamp. It's a muzzle at the end of the day, and it's going to clamp, and it's going to be difficult for us to wear it or remove it in the first place. So trying to talk ourselves through it is what is important, and trying to do it in a comfort space, whether at home, not in the rush to go to office, not in school. Like choosing the first few times to be done in your own time and space is important. And a lot of people, Shruti, I want to say that take anywhere between 1 to 3 cycles to get comfortable using the cup. For some people to get to that.
When I talk to people about the cloth pad, I sort of say the same thing. Try it out on a low flow day. Try it out on the days you're at home. And don't expect, or anything actually, for any step that you take towards being sustainable, it is a lifestyle change, but it's not a drastic change. It is a lifestyle change. So if you're going to make the jump, you might fall, or you might not like it. You might think it's too much for you to handle. So anything that you want to take, even something like composting, start small, and don't try to assume that in the first try you'll get it right. Don't try to do everything in one go. Take it step by step is what I tell people. So even with the cup, I think you've told a valid point of saying don't jump into it. It might take about 3 cycles to get used to it. Yeah.
So in sync with you about the composting as well. So in sync with you in that way. So the cup, I mean, the first aspect of the cup is preferably sterilizing it in boiling water. And this involves taking it to the kitchen to boil the cup. And a lot of people might be hesitant to that. If that is something that can't be done, then I would suggest doing it in really hot water in the bathroom. Essentially, it's made of medical grade silicone, so it doesn't really require you to boil the cup, but we live in a country like India, so being precautious is absolutely necessary with the water quality that we have in general. I would suggest going to the bathroom, finding a comfortable position, either sitting on the Indian closet or the Western closet, as the more comfortable position that we've heard people say, but some people also put one leg on the closet, one leg on the bed, or any sort of like, basically you're building an elevation for yourself. And there are a couple of folds that you can try. So one is like hold the cup. If you're right-handed, you want to hold it in your left hand, because you're just going to fold it tight, and then hold the punch very tightly with your right hand. So yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And you try to create a small apex as much as possible. And if my knuckle here is the entrance to the vagina, I will push it, but I will push it in the direction towards my backbone.
Okay.
Because that's how the vaginal vault is angulated. And what will happen is most of the cup will slowly go in. At the point that you will feel some sort of pressure is when the cup is crossing the pubic bone. The pubic bone is somewhere here, right, almost at the entrance, and that's where some sort of feeling will happen. And once you cross that, you won't particularly feel anything. It will go inside and open up like this, and it creates a suction. Now, the key to understanding if you've actually won the cup correctly is that you're not supposed to feel a thing. You're not supposed to feel the presence of the cup inside the body. But some people do feel some sort of pressure, or some sort of stress or strain, because it's alien, it's different. You're feeling some vacuum built inside you. And for that, just walk, take a couple of steps, sit down, and just do a couple of squats even, and you'll start to feel it kind of take its position, and it'll sit better for you.
Yeah. The other way about comfort,
yeah.
I had somebody tell me that she was actually looking for her cup all over the house and she couldn't find it. And then she realized she was actually using it. So that's how comfortable the cups can be.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was an interesting story. And she's like, thank God I didn't forget over days to take it out.
Yeah, and there have been people who've forgotten for days to take it out. And we're very scared of it. Yeah, we're very scared of it. In fact, in a lot of the messaging that we do, we're trying to be conscious of helping them remember that, hey, you have to take out your cup. It's high risk for you to keep it in for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
The other thing that people do to add to the funny story is when they're boiling the cup, they forget to turn off the gas or the induction, and the water evaporates, the cup burns with it, because the cup burns at very high temperatures, about 150 to 200 degrees. So then there's only residue left in the pan. So this also happens quite a bit. But coming back to using the cup, the other way to do it, which a lot of people find easier to do, is this fold. Basically, you press the cup together and you hold it, and then you move to your comfortable hand, holding the fold in place. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's more like a C or a U, but you don't try to push the entire surface into your body. What you do is you use this. Imagine this is a triangle, and use only the apex first to kind of push into the vagina.
Okay.
And then you will feel your vagina make more room to take it in, and it will open up. And then removal is simple. Wash your hands very well, and of course all the protocols surrounding wash is really important. And slightly put your finger.
During this time, everybody is washing their hands, so I don't think you need to remind people.
I know. I know. And the trick with removing is trying to feel for the cup at the entrance. If you're not able to feel it, then try to just bear down with your muscles a little bit, just like how you bear down in a toilet when you want to poop. It's all the same musculature. They're very closely and tightly packed. So once you push with your muscles, you'll be able to reach the rim, move right about the rim, and make a puncture in the cup, and then pull it out. You normally want to do this sitting on a closet, because you might spill like a droplet of blood. It's
Okay.
the imagination we have is that there will be a lot of blood. There won't be a lot of blood because, Shruti, I don't know, can you guess how much do you think we bleed during a cycle?
I have no clue.
Yeah, so
You should
we
tell me.
bleed very less. We bleed about 30 to 60 ml. That's the global average. And 60 ml is like, imagine like 5 tablespoons. That's
This
about
is
it.
a full cycle, or
Full cycle, full cycle. And
and how much
medically,
can a cup hold?
different cups hold different. This is about 20 ml, 20 to 22
Okay.
ml. And like,
Okay.
normally the trend is like this. So this is like, supposing on the first day, most people will bleed a little lesser than the second day. That's about 5 to 10 ml maximum. The second day, you might bleed about 20 ml more. And the
Okay.
third day, you'll bleed another 5 to 7 ml. So that's what's going to happen if you're like, you fall into the global average. But of course, with today there's so many hormonal diseases. There are so many people experiencing different forms of menstrual disorders, from endometriosis to PCOS to very heavy menstrual bleeding. So if you bleed anywhere above 100 ml, then that's reason for you to kind of go and check with the doctor. And in that way, the cup helps in enabling clinical access faster and better articulation to the doctor itself.
Okay, that's an advantage, because obviously I didn't know how much a woman bleeds,
Yeah,
and this
yeah,
is a good way to monitor that. So
yeah.
thank you. That's
Oh,
very useful. Hopefully by my next cycle, I will be ready with this. Talking
sure.
about sterilization. So we know the theory of sterilization. Put it into boiling water, and as you said, do it in the kitchen. I know actually a friend of mine who uses the cup, but because she's staying with somebody else for a while now, she said, I don't have the privacy to,
Yeah, yeah.
boil the cup or sterilize it. I've not used it for a while. So what about if I have to travel? How does one tackle the problem with
Right.
cup and sterilizing it?
Sure. Such a valid question. So a lot of people, what they do, it's like we spoke previously also, it's about how we manage our lifestyle with any product that we use, right? So with the cup, ideally, like, if possible, sterilize it before you anticipate to travel, even if it's 10 days ahead or something, and keep it in the clean pouch. Like, even if it's not the pouch that the cup comes in, some other pouch or a handkerchief that, that's clean and like sun dried particularly, but it should be breathable. That's the important thing for you to carry. And supposing you're in a place, in a train or a bus, you're not able to sterilize it, as long as you're touching it with very clean hands and the cup is not touching any other surface like a wash basin or a dining table or anything, and the cup touches basically that pouch which is clean, your hands and your vagina, it's okay. And even there, if you're not able to, like, even through the cycle, if you're not able to take it out and empty it and just rinse it with water, which is what we recommend, you don't have to sterilize it every time you take it out, because
Yes, that's
ideally
my
most,
other question. That's my other
yeah,
question, because some friends of mine do it after every time they pull it out, they sterilize it and put it back. Some friends just do it at the beginning of the cycle, end of the cycle, and that's about it. But in between, they just rinse it and they put it back. So is that
yes,
okay?
rinsing is more than enough. Rinsing is more than enough. Some people tend to use soap. We recommend use soap that is very gentle, that the pH values, because our vaginas are acidic. Like, it has, we have to try to maintain the pH of the vagina itself. So try not to imbalance that in any way. Using a very, very neutral soap will help, and just rinsing it. Even if you're not traveling, all you'll do is you'll empty it, empty the blood in the closet. Some people actually use it to, just put it in their plants or their compost and all of those things as well.
Wow.
It's supposed to be a good nutrient medium in that way. It also helps reimagine how we've conceived menstrual blood as a waste, but we don't know how else it can be used because we haven't imagined it yet. And then just rinse it and use it. But if you're not able to rinse it, and especially when we're traveling in Western countries where the faucet is not like something that is common, just wipe it with a tissue, or just as is. Once you empty it, there will be a little bit of blood around, but just as is, wear it again, because it's our own blood. It's not touched anywhere else. And so long as we don't have an inherent infection, like a fungal infection, we should be fine.
So how long is it okay to wear this cup?
Ideally, not more than 10 to 12 hours. Take it
Okay.
out, empty it, and re-wear it. Yeah.
So somebody says she uses an intimate cleanser, an organic intimate cleanser. So
Yeah.
is that okay? I mean, she's made a comment on that. Magna writing again.
Where,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the idea of switching to a cup or a cloth pad is to reduce the paraphernalia that we need to, like kind of using a product itself. Not particularly in favor unless, prescribed by a doctor for a particular reason, for yeah, that you have to use an intimate wash. It's not necessary. But in case you're traveling, you're feeling insecure about the water that is around, you're not able to like rinse it, you've carried a bottle of water, or there's very little water resource, maybe a wash can help in those circumstances. But preferably a water-based wash is what I would recommend than anything else.
Yeah, so I would say like if hot water takes care of everything, the need for something else is absolutely not necessary, is what I would say. So as you said, maybe in extreme circumstances, using an intimate cleanser should do. The other question I had was, coming back to the business side of things. Do you see yourself diversifying into something else, or this is all Boondh is about, or this is all you're going to do? Yeah.
So our cloth pads are almost ready.
So I expect some more products from Boondh. What's it going to be like?
So very soon you'll have our cloth pads as well, which again we have tried to just innovate in terms of what others have done and learn from them and put out the products. We're focusing currently on a lot more of advocacy and policy work surrounding, like for example, working with a company or an organization, helping them give like a holistic menstrual solution. So it could be menstrual culture, menstrual leave policy, menstrual policy surrounding, just how do you enable an organization to help menstruators deal with their menstrual disorders better, and also waste management. So we're collaborating with a few organizations and products itself on waste management as well, and we're experimenting and seeing what's going to happen on that side. So as and when we experiment, we'll figure out where we go with other products.
Good luck. Good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So why did you start with the cup then? Why the cup? Why not the cloth pad first?
Truth be told, it was just a personal preference. At that point in time. The cup was very, very comfortable for me to use, and it felt very important for me to share that with others to begin with. In fact, we should have come up with a cloth pad.
I'm very, very glad you did, but it's just a question that I have to ask. Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, and we should have come up with a cloth pad a long time ago, but we've been dilly-dallying for various reasons. As a resource-starved organization, you can understand that we're constantly struggling to do everything that we have.
Somebody has to do what you're doing as well. If there are enough players in the cloth pad market, there weren't enough, because the thing I would personally say is, especially something like the cup, where it has to be inserted inside you. I would personally want to go with a brand that I can trust.
Sure.
So in that way, having Boondh and the kind of work you do, it kind of builds the trust with the customers, and they know the kind of work you do, the kind of advocacy that you do. They know that if they're going to pick up a product like yours, it's going to be safe for their body. So it is important, and I'm glad that you started selling the cup first. And the other thing I tell people is, for me personally, when I shifted just with the cloth pad, and I'm sure when people have shifted to the cups as well, there is a kind of connect that you have with your body, which we would have taken it for granted with the disposable pads. And you and I have grown up in the generation of disposable pads. So from probably our first time that we menstruated, we have been using the menstrual pads. So we've not had that feeling of connecting with our body. And as you said, with the cup, we are able to even measure the amount of blood one loses. And that's so important for a woman. And it's beyond that as well. For a cloth pad user, you're washing your blood off. There is that feeling that this is yours. Or the story of people giving it back to plants. I think it's a whole, not just a lifestyle switch. I think there is a huge spiritual change, I would also say, once you shift to a sustainable way of ministry. So my last question for the evening, we are all experiencing this period of lockdown and uncertainty, and we've had many of us are going through many things, good and bad. For Goli Soda, it's actually been a big eye opener in many fronts. It's made us believe that people have started opening their eyes to the concept of sustainability a lot more now. They have the time to think. That's one of the reasons why we are doing these talks, because people now have the time to think, they have the time to listen, make informed choices, and have realized that the earth is just not about us, but it's more than that. So what has the lockdown taught you personally and professionally? What has been going in your mind? Many of us in the business side, we've also come up with actually fresh ideas after this, and it's motivated us with some new thoughts. And personally, of course, each one of us have learned lessons in some way or the other. So what is that? What is that for you?
Yeah, this is so hard to answer and so exciting to answer as well. I think personally, I live by myself in Bangalore, for example, and the very fact that I've been like shut in my own house during this entire lockdown has been it's been a biggest fear that I've personally had to like kind of deal with. But the minute I've been living it, I've realized it's not as bad as I imagined it to be.
Okay.
The forceful nature of having to just be within the four walls of your house per se, but that's also given me a lot of time to think about Boondh itself. Boondh was running on some sort of let's just respond, let's just do things autopilot mode for the last 2 years. With the resources that we had, that now this entire lockdown has given me the time to really rethink how do I have to channelize my own energy and resources within Boondh itself. What are the strategies that we're going to shift in taking to talk more aggressively about menstruation? Some of the base work, like for example, some of the base work that we're doing on constitutionally challenging menstrual exclusion itself. A lot of research and writing is going into that. Because Nepal recently prohibited the chapadi system, which is the menstrual heart system that was very prevalent in Nepal, and we have it in India as well in many places. Whether it's inside the house where people are excluded into a bedroom and not allowed to touch anything, to actually in as close as Madurai and just vicinity of Madurai, where people are forced to stay in huts, and how that exacerbates their vulnerabilities. So I was just throwing an example of the research that we're doing. We're trying to also see how can we imagine now engaging with stakeholders, because now a lot of our CSR projects are shut. A lot of the grant work that we had, we're not able to reach our stakeholders with the government as well. So we're still in the process of thinking, re-strategizing, and seeing how do we not just make the money to survive the organization, but actually put out our work now that we have the time to breathe and do a lot more things.
Yes. So it's been a wonderful chat, Bharti, and I think not just me, I'm sure many of our audience have also had their questions answered about cups, and also about a little thought going into how it is to run a sustainable business, especially during such times. So please continue to do the amazing work that you're doing, and I look forward to seeing more work, more stories coming from Boondh, and hope our association with Goli Soda continues for a while.
Me too. I really hope that. And thank you so much for all the work that you do. It was such a privilege to watch your talk yesterday with Poonam as well, from Daily Dump. And it was so nice because we have a Daily Dump in my apartment. Without even me evangelizing for it, there was already, before I moved in and bought this apartment, there was this Daily Dump composter, the big community composter here already. So I'm like, it's a really small world because we also resell with Daily Dump as well. So thrilled to see that talk. And all the very best for everything.
Thank you. So catch you later. Thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that was Bharti. All enjoyed and got all your questions and doubts running around the cup solved. We'll be happy to answer more of your questions. If you have any, please message us, send us email, or you can even contact us through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are there all over. And Please continue to watch our series, The Sustainable Network. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. once again, we will have another exciting social entrepreneur who is making a change in the space of sustainability. Thank you once again.